Hey, welcome to How to Build Your Own Home. I want to talk about installing windows and when's the best time to order windows. This is really something that is variable, and I'm going to explain some of the variables to consider as to when you need to order windows. So we're on a job site here on the Pine Valley North job, and I'm going to go over and talk about a few things that we ran into, which is good that we didn't order windows too soon because they would have been the wrong size. And a lot of times you'll have homes with a design that didn't quite factor in all the things you're going to do to the home or other factors, which we're going to talk about, which would have changed the size of the windows. So today we've ordered our windows on this job, even though we're like 75% done with the framing. The reason being, let's go check it out and I'll show you why. Okay, we're here. Please ignore the hammering and all that. I'll try to talk without the hammering. But this here is a window that's a case in point, okay? When you notice that I had very little reveal over here on this window, so we had to shrink it 3 inches on both sides to at least accommodate for reveal, meaning I would have no room for drywall there. The drywall would just be flush right into there. It would look really awkward and would be hard to do. So we actually adjusted this window to accommodate for that change. Let's go show you another one that ran into upstairs that's even more revealing as to why I waited until now to order windows. Okay, here's an example. Before we go upstairs, I wanted to show you a window that we fixed with the problem that still exists upstairs. But right here we have at least about a 5 to 6 inch return. Well, the plans didn't have that. The plans showed this window going all the way over here. And that's because the designer of the home was mostly used with desert builds. And he had a flush window, and that's just the style he did. But it wasn't working for this mountain build because we're going to have 1.5 inches of insulation plus all of our siding material on top of that. And so if this window is all the way flush, which I'll show you the example upstairs, then that insulation is going to encroach upon that window. So this window was already fixed. We adjusted it. He now has the correct size. So now we can order the window for here. But let me show you upstairs. Okay, here's a really good example where I barely have a 1/2 inch right there. If I have 1.5 inches of insulation and then I have my batten board on top of that on the outside, it's going to encroach on the window. You'd actually look inside the glass and see the insulation and all that. So we have to actually put in 3 more studs in here, and as a result, now we can order the windows. So the windows were ordered for this based upon the adjusted size. You can't see everything on a plan, okay? You can stare at it and stare at it, and some things just don't surface until the course of construction because the designer often has something in their mind, but it was never communicated during the course of the design process. And so a lot of the builder and even the client didn't know. So I communicated, we're going to put some insulation on the home, full wrap, but I think that was just lost in the communication. But it's not a problem. We adjust it here by putting 3 additional studs. Now we have room for our insulation. You can imagine that the 3rd stud coming out to here. Now we have plenty of return for the insulation and everything on this home. So again, when a home has a lot of custom features to it, you might just want to wait and order your windows after all the window openings are done. When they're all done, now you can order them. We adjusted a couple of door sizes as well, got things fixed because of other factors. Let me show you one more thing here and I'll explain what I mean by that. Here's a really good example of why on some custom homes you just want to order the windows when everything's right, when your framing structure is perfect. This was originally designed to have windows go all the way up there. But the problem is about 1/4 of the window would showcase nothing but a beam and the under of a roof. And why emphasize that? So we'll actually drop these down so that we actually emphasize the view, which is the mountain range beyond. Again, a lot of times it's hard to see this on a 2-dimensional surface. You actually need to walk through a 3-dimensional living space to see these types of things. I mean, I've been a builder for 25 years and I'm amazed at how we see things during the course of the build. Oh yeah, we can adjust that, we can adjust that. And I know there's some designers that are very meticulous, but even the most meticulous designers, you just can't see things until you're in that 3-dimensional realm. So that's why on this home, I did not order windows until today because now all the window openings are set and we're good with that. On 2 other jobs, let's go look at those and I'll explain to you why I ordered windows at a different time. Okay, on this job, I ordered the windows 3 weeks before we even started framing. Now, why would I do that? Because I was very, very safe on my window openings, my rough opening. I felt really confident we're going to hit them. I'm not going to have any changes. Plus, I'm running into the winter. The home across the valley, which we just came from, if I would have ordered those windows at the outset before we even started framing, I would have had 8 windows that would have been changed. In fact, probably more than that. But I counted 8 windows that they wouldn't have fit. We had to make some adjustments. So if you're in a very, very custom home with a lot of changes and a lot of features, and you really want to see how things line out, you want to wait to order your framing until after all those rough openings are done. But if you're building a really streamlined home, very simple, I've got another one down the road. We ordered those windows about a week and a half after we started framing, just to make sure. But once we felt real confident that those rough openings were going to be solid, we hurried and ordered the window. But you have to weigh the factors. What's the factor? How long will it take for the windows to get here? The one across the valley, it's going to take upwards of 6 weeks. Since we ordered these ones those 2 weeks before we started framing, they should be here in about 2.5 to 3 weeks, about when they're done with framing, which is really ideal. But again, you have to weigh all the factors. I order windows differently on just about every job. So keep that in mind, some things to think about when ordering windows. This is how to build your own home.